Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Daily Triple, your no shit gaming news video. That's 3 news stories in one video with zero faff. It's been a hot minute since we had any loot box news, but that doesn't mean there's been no progress at all. In a new report by the UK gambling charity GambleAware, it described loot boxes as structurally and psychologically akin to gambling. Now that's something we've all been thinking for a while as gamers, but it's good to see an official body actually saying something. The report was published on the 2nd of April by the Universities of Plymouth and Wolverhampton with funding from GambleAware. It highlights the risks that loot boxes pose by pointing out that 93% of kids in the UK play video games and 40% of them have opened a loot box. 12 out of 13 studies into loot boxes and gambling found that there was a positive correlation between the two. Now, to be fair, correlation doesn't always mean causation, but it seems pretty clear that there is some link here. It surveyed 7,771 loot box purchasers based on self-reported data and found that just 5% of that number accounts for half of all loot box revenue in the UK, which currently sits at around £700 million. A third of those surveyed fall into the problem gambler category as defined by the Gambling Commission using the Problem Gambling Severity Index, or PGSI. This index is based on a series of questions that I have linked below if you want to check out your own score. This third of gamers scored a PGSI of 8 or higher, meaning that they are problem gamblers, and they found a strong correlation between PGSI scores and spending on loot boxes. When looking at the spending habits of 14,000 gamers, the researchers found that young men are more likely to purchase loot boxes, and that younger and lesser educated people are even more likely to engage. In a series of interviews, the researchers determined that the reasons for spending are varied and complex from personal, social, and gameplay factors, and describes loot boxes as just one psychological nudge, in addition to in-game currencies and limited time offers. In isolation, a single loot box here and there won't realistically be a problem for most people, but for many it's just the start of a much worse problem, one that goes beyond just gaming. Companies like EA aren't too worried about getting you, dear viewer, to buy a loot box. They're more interested on preying on those already predisposed to addiction and young kids who just don't know any better about it. Following this report, the researchers proposed a number of suggestions to address the growing concern around loot boxes. Clear definitions of loot boxes, game labeling and enforceable age ratings, full disclosure of odds presented in an easily understood manner, spending limits and prices shown in real currency, and that these changes could be instated via new regulations or changes to existing gambling laws. Dr. James Close, Senior Research Fellow at the University of Plymouth, said, "Our work has established that engagement with loot boxes is associated with problem gambling behaviors, with players encouraged to purchase through psychological techniques such as fear of missing out. We have also demonstrated that at-risk individuals such as problem gamblers, gamers, and young people make disproportionate contributions to loot box revenues. We have made a number of policy suggestions to better manage these risks to vulnerable people, although broader consumer protections may also be required." Zoe Osmond, CEO of GambleAware, also said, "This research is part of GambleAware's continued commitment to protect children, adolescents, and young people from gambling harms. The research has revealed that a high number of children who play video games also purchase loot boxes, and we are increasingly concerned that gambling is now part of everyday life for children and young people." GambleAware funded this research to highlight concerns around loot boxes and problem gambling ahead of the upcoming Gambling Act review. It is now for politicians to review this research as well as the evidence of other organizations and decide what legislative and regulatory changes are needed to address these concerns. Obviously, research like this isn't 100% bulletproof and has a number of inherent limitations like relying on self-reporting, but it's another step towards getting this stuff sorted out. A loot box-free world grows much more likely as time goes by, but there's still a long way to go. Times can be really shitty at the moment, so we've got to celebrate the wins when we can, and this is definitely one of them. And next up, I only covered a cheating story last week, but I've already got another one for you. While that one was about the Chinese authorities supposedly springing the biggest cheating bust ever, the FBI over in America are cracking down on it too. It wouldn't be the first time China's made the US feel inadequate. Betting on Counter-Strike matches has been a thing for years now, but as with any time money gets involved in competition, match fixing and rigging becomes a real concern. In an interview with YouTuber /32, Ian Smith, the commissioner of the Esports Integrity Commission, explained that there is an ongoing investigation into match fixing in the North American MDL, or Mountain Dew League. Jesus Christ, I did not want to say that out out loud. The full video is about 30 minutes long, but the chat about match fixing is at around 20 minutes in if you want to check that out, and lasts about 7 minutes. In that discussion he said it's what I would describe as classic match fixing. Players are being bribed by outside betting syndicates in order to fix matches, rather than players just doing it off their own bat opportunistically, and it's been going on for longer, it's much more organised. So again, to some extent we're working with law enforcement and the FBI, who only recently had a sports betting investigative unit within the FBI. They're good, but they're inexperienced because sports betting has never been a thing in America until recently, so everybody's kind of finding their feet on that one. There have been a few roadblocks in addressing the situation, most obviously the pandemic, but also the fact that esports is such a new phenomenon. You just know there's a bunch of FBI yuppie boomers who have no idea what video games are, let alone esports, and just got this dumped on their desk. Australia saw a similar match fixing situation recently, and it is a criminal offence over there, so it's even more of a big deal. This resulted in sanctions against 35 CSGO players in January, back to back with another 7 from October last year. Smith points out that this case in the US is with a smaller group of people, but it's still very significant. The betting scandal in Australia, where whilst it was a large group of players, and there definitely is match fixing there, and we're working with law enforcement there, it takes a lot longer there once you start working with the police. Fortunately, in Australia, these are criminal offences, so getting it all coordinated with the police takes a lot longer. We've got great solid cases there, and if it was just us acting alone, we'd announce those prosecutions now. But it isn't all 42 guys that were betting, it's a much smaller group within that who were not just betting but manipulating outcomes. This investigation in the US is about to be made public and charges brought about within the next couple of weeks or so these arseholes are gonna learn the hard way that you just shouldn't cheat. Children understand that better than these people. Smith put it pretty plainly, and I think it's all we need to hear.
We're dealing with idiots, basically.
He also pointed out 3 common problems with all esports, not just Counter-Strike: integrity, youth protection, and live event safety and security. As esports gets bigger and bigger in the mainstream, and more importantly there's more money involved, it needs to be given the same sort of treatment as more established events in terms of security and protections for both fans and competitors. Personally, I don't watch any esports, and I'm certainly not someone who wants Rocket League to show up in the Olympics, but clearly this cottage industry isn't going anywhere, so these companies need to get with the program and start taking it seriously and not like a fad for a quick buck. The main thing I'm looking forward to is seeing more cheaters getting caught out, because that's the shit that puts lead in my pencil. And finally, it's been another fairly quiet week for game sales, even though there has been a newcomer this time. Outriders by People Can Fly and Square Enix launched on Thursday last week and debuted at number 6 on the UK physical sales charts. Personally, outside of the demo, I've only played about 30 minutes of it due to server issues, but hopefully I'll be able to jump in more this week. The recently released Monster Hunter Rise continues to perform well at number 4, and Capcom has just confirmed that it's sold through 5 million units globally after just 10 days. That's seriously impressive, especially considering it's currently only available on Switch. Nintendo Switch dominance holds strong with several exclusives in the top 10. Animal Crossing pulls 2nd, Mario 3D World Bowser's Fury snagged 3rd, Mario Kart 8 snuck 5th, Ring Fit Adventure got 7th, and Super Mario 3D All-Stars got 8th and is no longer available to purchase. Assassin's Creed Valhalla endures at number 9, and Minecraft on Switch brings up the tail end at number 10. The top spot was disappointingly retaken by FIFA 21 due to Easter offers after flip-flopping throughout the top 10 for the past couple of weeks. The rest of the month is back to being very quiet, but the PS5 exclusive Returnal drops on April 30th, which could be pretty interesting. After that, things pick up in May with Deathloop, Resident Evil 8, Biomutant, and Mass Effect Legendary Edition, so that should make things much more fun. And that's your lot for today. If you enjoyed this no shit format, go ahead and give the video a like to give it a boost, hit subscribe and the bell if you want to stay up to date on all future installments. Toss a coin to your YouTuber over at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. That's all for today. I've been Henry Cooper. Bye for now.